A country doesn't collapse when the bombs fall. It collapses when people stop believing the system still works. And some of the countries on this list are not the ones you expect. In the next few minutes, you'll discover which nations are quietly moving toward economic disaster, political breakdown, social unrest, or demographic collapse, based on debt, instability, corruption, population decline, conflict risk, and failing institutions. This ranking combines real economic data, geopolitical analysis, demographic trends, and internal instability indicators from global reports and recent events. Because by the end of this video, you may look at world power very differently. Most people imagine collapse as a sudden explosion, but in reality, countries usually collapse slowly, then all at once. Currencies weaken, trust disappears, young people leave, governments lose control, and suddenly, nations that once looked stable begin cracking from the inside. This ranking is based on economic fragility, debt pressure, political instability, population trends, corruption, conflict exposure, and long-term sustainability risks. Welcome to 10 Things Now, a growing community that values knowledge, clarity, and real-world insight. 10 Things Now helps you learn faster and think smarter. 10 things you should know, now. And today, we're counting down the top 10 countries that could collapse next. Number 10. Lebanon. Most people already think Lebanon collapsed. But the shocking part? Experts believe the worst may not even be over yet. Its banking system imploded, inflation destroyed savings, and basic infrastructure keeps failing. Many citizens survive on remittances from relatives abroad while political paralysis blocks recovery. And this matters because Lebanon has become a warning sign for what happens when corruption, debt, and sectarian politics collide for too long. Number 9. Haiti. Most people see Haiti as simply poor. But this is where most people fail. Haiti isn't just struggling economically. Large areas are effectively outside government control. Armed gangs dominate key roads, neighborhoods, and supply chains while institutions continue weakening. And when a state loses its monopoly on force, collapse stops being theoretical. It becomes daily life. Number 8. Myanmar. Many outsiders barely follow Myanmar anymore. That may be a mistake. Since the military coup, the country has faced civil conflict, economic decline, sanctions, and growing fragmentation between armed groups and the central government. Some analysts now compare parts of the situation to slow-motion state disintegration. And the frightening part? The longer instability lasts, the harder national recovery becomes. Number 7. Venezuela. People think Venezuela already hit rock bottom. But collapse can evolve. Despite huge oil reserves, years of hyperinflation, sanctions, political turmoil, and mass migration weakened the country's long-term stability. Millions already left, creating one of the world's largest migration crises. And when educated workers flee faster than systems can recover, rebuilding becomes brutally difficult. Now here's the unsettling part. Everything so far involved countries already seen as unstable. But the next entries include nations many people still assume are too important, too strategic, or too developed to seriously fail. That assumption may become dangerous. Number 6. Pakistan. Pakistan is often viewed through the lens of military power. But economic pressure may be the bigger threat. The country faces soaring debt, inflation, political polarization, energy shortages, and climate vulnerability all at the same time. Add regional security tensions and rapid population growth, and the pressure becomes enormous. And when governments spend more time surviving politically than solving structurally, instability compounds fast. Number 5. Bosnia and Herzegovina. Most people rarely think about Bosnia today. That silence hides the risk. Ethnic divisions remain deeply embedded decades after war, political institutions are fragmented, and separatist tensions periodically return. Economic stagnation and youth emigration only deepen the uncertainty. And here's the reality shift. countries do not need active war to move toward collapse. Sometimes unresolved history is enough. Number 4. South Africa. This one surprises many people, because South Africa still has major industries, global influence, and financial infrastructure. But underneath that image are severe energy crises, rising crime, corruption scandals, unemployment, and widening inequality. Rolling blackouts alone damaged economic confidence for years. A country doesn't collapse only from being poor. Sometimes it collapses from failing expectations. And that may be even more destabilizing. Now we enter the countries where collapse wouldn't just affect citizens. It could reshape entire regions. Because when major states weaken, global markets, migration patterns, and geopolitical balances begin shifting with them. And number 1 may be the most controversial entry yet. Number 3. Russia. Many people still see Russia purely as a military superpower, but long-term demographic and economic pressures tell a more complicated story. An aging population, international sanctions, capital flight, dependence on energy exports, and prolonged geopolitical isolation create structural risks that could intensify over time. Even powerful states become vulnerable when economies narrow and populations shrink. And history shows something uncomfortable. Major empires rarely believe decline is possible, until it already begins. Number 2. Argentina. Argentina has enormous natural resources, educated citizens, and agricultural power. So why does crisis keep returning? Decades of inflation, debt cycles, currency instability, political volatility, and declining investor trust created a pattern many economists now see as chronic structural fragility. Each recovery often resets into another crisis. And here's what makes Argentina terrifying to analysts. It proves a country can have talent, resources, and potential, and still remain trapped in instability for generations. Before we reveal number 1, remember this: collapse doesn't always look dramatic at first. Sometimes it looks like young people leaving, investors hesitating, birth rates falling, trust disappearing quietly, and the country at number 1 may already be entering that phase right now. Number 1. North Korea. Most people assume North Korea survives because of military control, but that control may also be its greatest weakness. Extreme isolation, dependence on limited trade partners, food insecurity, sanctions, restricted innovation, and centralized power create a system where even small disruptions could trigger massive consequences. Unlike larger economies, there's very little flexibility if internal systems fail. And here's the perspective-changing part. The stronger a closed system appears from the outside, the more catastrophic failure can become when pressure finally breaks through. Because systems built entirely on fear often struggle to adapt, and adaptation is what keeps nations alive. If you stayed until this point, you deserve a bonus. Here's something most people never realize. Some experts believe the first signs of national collapse are no longer military. They're demographic. Countries with collapsing birth rates, aging populations, rising loneliness, and shrinking workforces may face long-term decline even without war or economic disaster. In other words, the next great collapse might happen silently, not through invasion, but through exhaustion, and that changes how we think about power entirely. So which country do you think the world is underestimating right now? And which nation do you believe could shock everyone by surviving against all odds? If this video changed the way you see global stability, there's a lot more waiting for you here on 10 Things Now. Because the future of the world may look stable on the surface, while changing underneath in ways most people never notice.